Well, welcome to Southern California, Anaheim. We're here with the FIE Foil GP. I am Don Anthony, President of USA Fencing, Vice President of the FIE. To my left, I have Jeff Buchantz, who is a commentator for the FIE channel, who's also been a two-time announcer for the Olympics with NBC. I have Alex Grumman to my right. He runs Sword Sport Productions, is a very active social media person, also a graduate of Notre Dame University and wearing a California hat.
Anaheim Ducks.
Anaheim Ducks, okay, so we're in Anaheim. And then I'm joined virtually through the technology of blue jeans by Alessandro Noto. Alessandro, how are you? And Carl.
I'm fine, thanks. Hello, everybody.
Thank you. Alessandro is joining us from Sicily, and he is the social media and marketing guru with the very successful Italian Federation. And then Karim Bashir is joining us from Great Britain, who is also a commentator with the FIE channel and also a former, I guess is a former or always has been a Olympic broadcaster, just returned from Korea. And you were covering curling and short track speed skating. Is that right?
That's right, Don. Yeah, it was a great time over there. Pretty cold, but I'm sure it's pretty warm there in California.
Yeah, well, it's not as, let's put it this way. It's warmer than where I left, which had snow on the ground. But I was expecting it to be balmy, and balmy it's not. Comfortable. Obviously, we're outside. It's pretty, and we're just happy to be here. So let's get to business. You know, we're here for one of the 9 most important events in the Grand Prix series with the FIE. We're, you know, with the foil discipline, we've got the best men and the women in the world, and we're into day 2. The men fenced yesterday, so we know what the field looks like for the 64. But before we go down into the details, I just want to get thoughts from all 4 of you guys on what is the importance of this, and just sort of give a lay of the land of what we expect to see at this type of event. And I'm going to start with my left here with Mr. Buchantz. I'll go to my right, and then I'll finish with the 2 gentlemen that are joining us remotely. So, Jeffrey, give me your thoughts.
Well, first and foremost, the Grand Prix counts for double points, so it's very important for these fencers. That's the key. Rio is in the rearview mirror. Tokyo's coming up. Everyone's looking forward to Wuxi, and things are starting to crystallize. And what's sort of interesting is that the 1 and 2 ranked fencers here are Daniele Garozzo, 25, Alexander Macialis, 23. But 3 of the first 4 World Cups were won by some graybeards, with Erwin Lepechou of France, 36, winning one, Richard Cruz, 34, Great Britain, winning one, and Alexei Cheremisinov of Russia winning one. And Karim, I'd like to ask you, what do you think about that? We have a youth movement, yet the older fencers have been winning the World Cups this season.
Well, Jeff, you know, that's a great point. And I think that I don't want to get too technical here, but back when I was fencing internationally, the big thing was this big circular cease flick hit to shoulder. And the fencing fraternity felt that too many fencers were using this really super fast flick hit that really was developed out of Germany, and it was losing the essence of foil. So they increased the amount of time that the button on the end of the foil needed to be in on the target for a hit to register. And in recent times, about 12 months ago, they've gone back a little bit to how it was before. Not all the way, but back a little bit. So some of these older guys who are used to doing this big circular cease flick hit 12, 15 years ago are now able to use it again. And the great thing there is it's brilliant for attacks for the older guys, but also they know how to defend it, and the younger guys don't. So I think that's why we're seeing some of the more mature fencers doing really well.
Thanks, Karim. So what we have here in the 64, we've seen 4 countries make up more than 50% of the field. We have the United States with 11 fencers, France and Italy with 9, and Russia with 7. And Alessandro, this is for you. We have a little bit of bad luck for Italy in the 64, because you see Luperi has drawn Avila, and Rosatelli has drawn Nista. So what do you think about that?
I think it could happen. It's our sport, of course. I would like to see that we have for sure two athletes in top 32. I'm optimistic. So this is my vision. And what I would like to say, watching the table, because this morning it was the first thing I checked. A lot of young fencers, and it is a good news for everyone from several countries. It means our sport is rebuilding year by year, and new interesting fencers are growing. It happens in Italy, but in several countries. I saw a lot of surname that I usually don't hear. It means it is a Grand Prix with double points, and it is a big occasion, a big stage for young fencers to improve their careers and their ranking position.
So we also have a couple of interesting matchups potentially in the 32, where we could see Peter Jopik of Germany, a four-time world champion, could go up against Zarevchenko, who just won the world championship. And for the Americans, we could see Rayson Bowden draw his teammate Miles Chomley Watson. We could have some very interesting matchups in the 32. So back to you, Don.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeffrey, Alessandro, and Carl. I'm going to pass it over here to Mr. Grumman. Alex he's got his tableau, so let's hear his thoughts. Go ahead, Alex.
Good morning, everyone. Very nice to see you. First and foremost, staying with Jeff's point, we're all used to a fallout year after Olympics. A lot of people take year off. Now they try to come back. They're not necessarily in top 16. They're fighting to get back in the top 16. And we get a lot of surprising results and surprising matchups. The most surprising matchup to me yesterday was Davis and Jopik. They've not fenced each other to get to 64. And that was a brilliant matchup. And we've seen still a lot of youth ending up in top 64. One thing actually was very heartened by the 3 out of 4 U.S. juniors that won the Junior World Championship last year have made it to top 64 this year. To me, when we look at men's, the best matchup in top 64 is Aladina Belkacem, who won silver in London, versus Alexander Chepenic from Czech Republic.
Good
Junior European champion, and them meeting in 64 is tough. I think what we got to pay attention to really is women, because in men's, we had everybody. And the story was we even had Clyde Brink coming back, the 2004 Olympic champion coming back and trying to make a run. In women, the story is really the absence, right? We have Battini out. We have Martianova, who finished third last year, out because she just went to Junior European Championships. But the most interesting absence is Ariana Arrigo, who will go down as one of the greatest fencers of all time, and now is trying to become the first person since 1980 to win Olympic medals in more than one discipline. And so she went to Athens to fence in a Sabre World Cup. We have the Athens results, which are very surprising. Pascu from Romania won, I believe, her first ever World Cup. Pustai from Hungary second, I believe, her first ever final. And Martin and Berder third and fourth. Enrico finished 41st, and she was fifth Italian. What we as Americans don't understand, but sure Alessandro does, how does one make an Italian Olympic team? How does the Olympic team get chosen? Italy's pretty much a shoo-in to go to Japan, right? Italian women. But how does one get on the team? What's the selection process?
Hi, Alex. Do you mean in Sabre, I suppose?
I think he's thinking he's actually whichever team that you want to talk about.
I think that Tokyo 2020 is coming in 2 years, and in 2 years, a lot of things could happen. Of course, it's not easy at all when an athlete like Arianna Enrico starts to compete in a new weapon, and it's something extraordinary. Yesterday, we spoke about that, and I think it could be something that bring attention to entire fencing world. So it could be something positive for the world of fencing in general, because it's a unique challenge. At the same time, I would say that now we have a Sabre women team that won last World Championship in Leipzig. and it's a very strong team, very solid, made of young people. But of course, I'm in favor of the meritocracy concept. So if Arianna will be in the top 4 or in top 3 in 2 years, of course, she will deserve to be part of the Olympics. Same time, now probably the last competition in foil she fenced was in Turin Grand Prix. Now she's number 4 in FIA ranking, so she has a lot of advantage to manage. But of course, there are at the same time young fencers that are pushing. Volpi, Mancini, and there is the 4th place that now is Palumbo, the fencer, but I don't know what will happen in a couple of years. As I said, we have this very young fencer, Martina Favaretto. I don't know if you heard about her, but she's cadet. She won European Juniors. She was bronze in cadet, and in Turin, a foil Grand Prix, she was 5th or 6th. So, in 2 years, a lot of things could happen. So I cannot do some forecast. For sure, it's not an easy position for both the coach of foil and saber.
Sounds like Italy has a powerhouse that has to be reckoned with one way or the other. And a lot of horses in your stable for sure.
We are lucky for that because we are coaches and clubs that, thanks God, provide us new talents. And I don't know if the secret is the tradition or the possibility we have to start from our tradition, but looking for the future, the new fencing challenges.
Right. Hey, Jeffrey, you got a question? Jeffrey has that look on his face. He wants to say something. Oh, here.
So, Karim, this is for you. It was very perceptive that you talked about the lengthening of the blockage time and how this might have benefited some of the older fencers. So, I come from an era back in the day where Fabio Del Zotto in 1976 won the Olympic gold in Montreal with his arm running forward with his arm behind him. And that led to a generation of foil fencing where the attack was called very liberally as long as the fencer was moving forward. Over the years, it tightened up, as you know, and it seems now that there is an inordinate amount of chatter out there and concern that it's become very liberal again, that the fencer is getting the benefit of the attack by the feet moving, but with the arm not. In some cases, not even as such as preparation, but it's actually invitation, which gives that fencer an incredible amount of leeway and benefit. What do you think about that?
Look, I was trained classically. I was trained by a Polish coach when I first started. I finished competing under a British coach who's actually now training or coaching out in Rochester, New York State with Iris Zimmerman, David Taylor. And we worked on this very classic approach to fencing, which was the sword arm had to be threatening. Look, I don't want to call up any fences here because, of course, the referees are the ones that are making the decisions and they're given the guidance on how to make those decisions by the FIE. But Alex Macialis is probably a great example of one of those fencers that he calls it himself. He fences with a dog leash. You know, his arm is right back here and then he finishes at the last minute. What do I feel as a purist? I used to fence with a lot of broken time attacks. So for non-technical people, I was doing an attack that wasn't a classical attack. My arm was coming out, then I'd bring it back, and then I'd finish very fast. That was one of my tricks. So I can't criticize any fencers that are doing that now today. The bottom line is the referees are told how they should judge foil fencing, and that is what the fencers are doing. Šupanić is another one. Alex mentioned Šup in the round of 64 has a cracking match against the Egyptian Abu Al Qasim, and that's going to be a great contrast of styles and a good one to watch for those out there that want to know what you and I are talking about, Jeff. With Šup used to do lots of broken time attacks as a junior, but when he moved into the seniors, there was less leniency on that broken time, that delayed finish to the attack. I've not really given you an answer, have I, Jeff? But I think the bottom line is the fences are fencing the way they are fencing because of the referees.
So, it's funny, you mentioned Alexander Marcial. It's better you than me, but I had a long chat with his dad, Greg, who's the American team coach, Olympic coach, his father. And I said, Greg, is it a chicken or the egg where Alexander's fencing this way, and because he's reached a high status, the referees are giving it to him, or is it the other way around? It's very interesting. And he goes, no, it is the other way around. We have a philosophy that whatever the referees call, we adapt to, not the other way around. And the fencers all know that.
And Greg, when he was fencing in that more, in inverted commas, classical era where the arm had to continue moving forwards throughout the action. So Greg's a clever guy. He knows. Don't tell him I said that. I hope he's not listening. He's got a big enough head as it is. But he knows how the referees are calling things. And to be honest with you, Jeff, I'm sure you've seen this, and your time on the piste as a referee as well. The refereeing changes from match to match or fight to fight, even where you see athletes that are having to adapt to a way the referee is calling a hit. And that is, of course, because you have two fences on the piste. So I saw a brilliant match in the 2009-10 Junior World Championships where Alex Šupanić was fencing with broken time early on. He got the hits given for him in the last 16 matches, but he didn't get them in the final because he was up against a slightly different fencer whose attack was progressive but very slow. So fencers have to adapt to what the referee's calling.
And thank you, Carmen. I spoke with Yana Dakova, who's a member of the FIU Arbitrage and Refereeing Commission, and I asked her about this. And she says that the referees basically are told to call correctly. They don't want to give too much benefit to the person that's coming forward almost waiting for the opponent to react. So that's where we are right now. I think what the fencers want is consistency. That's all they can ask for. Thank you. Back to you, Don.
I appreciate that very comprehensive answer, Carm, and the basis on how you came up with that. I want to do two things now so we don't run too late, even though I know we have a little more time than I thought we would. And as Jeffrey said, it's a half hour. It's a long time. I said, not when you got four guys here who actually know fencing, and I'm going to try to moderate between you. So let's go to the women's side now. Let's get a feel for your thoughts on, what we're looking like there, and then we'll bring up a wrap. So this time we'll go virtual, and, Alessandro, Carm, flip for it. Which one of you guys want to go first?
After you, Ale.
Okay. Foil women is really unpredictable because we have, I think, 2-3 fencers that are leading now. Deri Glazova, of course, Alice Volpi, and Lee Kiefer. And it's not predictable who can get the gold, the medal. They are for sure 90% on the podium. Then we have 7-8 fencers in condition to reach the podium or to win the competition. So what is interesting now is that foil in general, not only women, is less boring than before because technically we had 4 or 5 years ago Valentina Vezzali, Arianna Enrico, Elisa Di Francesca, Inna Deri Glazova, Chanaeva, and stop. And it was boring because we watched the same matches for years. Now it's interesting because sometimes there is a big surprise, and it is happening very frequently. It is happening also in foil men, and now we have 18, 20 athletes in condition to get the goal or to gain the podium. So this is something very interesting because it brings the audience to feel like a thrilling movie.
So I'm going to pass it on to Karam and Alessandro. It was recorded, but it broke up a little bit because we were having a hard time hearing you. But we'll be listening to it in the recorded session, okay?
Okay. Okay.
We got a lot of background noise here, and what's happening is that when the noise picks up, it cuts in our mics. So I'm going to have our producer sort of take us on to mute so that we're not cutting you guys off. All right.
If you want, I can give you a synthetic thoughts about what I said. I just said that foil.
Do that.
Yes,
Please.
Foil is unpredictable. Women and men both is unpredictable because now we have different fencers in condition to get the podium and to get the gold. So I think it happens mostly in men foil because we have 18, 20 athletes in condition to win. About women, we have 2-3 athletes that are leading the ranking: Kiefer, Deriglasova, and Volpi. But of course, there are 7-8 fencers in condition to get the podium or to get the gold. So it's something positive because the audience is like the audience of a thrilling movie.
Having that kind of strength of the field makes it a lot more interesting because you just don't know. And at the same time, you got your usual suspects. So you have some repeats and then you have some surprises. So yeah, that's a nice combination. All right, we're going to go to you, Carl.
Well, Don, Ale's not no fool. He knows what he's talking about. 20 medals up for grabs in the men's event this season, and 17 different medalists. So wide open field. It's slightly tighter in the women's, as Ale said, but the leading light this season has to be Alicia Volpi. She has been phenomenal. First 3 events, silver medal in each of those, and then in Algiers she picked up the gold medal, beating another young Italian in the final, Erica Cipressa. Just the conveyor belt of Italian foilists just continues. So it's phenomenal. Ina Deriglasova, she's an interesting one for me. I mean, it's funny when you talk about the person who's won the last 2 world championships and the last Olympic Games to say that she's had a bit of an up and down couple of years. She's won the big ones. She won Turin, in December. She won Katowice, the World Cup in January. She got a bronze in Algiers. She's always there or thereabouts. But Lee Kiefer's an interesting one as well because she's come through the women's field last season, having won the first 2 Grand Prix, pulled herself away from the final one because she was graduating. Fair enough. So she's right up there as well. But for me, Volpi is the star player so far this season, and it'll be interesting to see if she can convert it one of the big ones, the zonal championships. Novi Sad for her at the European Championships, or in Wuxi at the World Championships. So the women's field is an interesting one at the moment. But I have a question for all of you. Where have the French gone?
Interesting question. I'm going to pass it over to Alex here.
Morning, Karim. When I look at the French, obviously I look at Zora Thibus, and to me she's an anomaly because I think, especially with women, continuity with a coach extremely important. When we look at Deriglasova, she stayed with Mavlyuta for a very, very long time, and she's become a dominant Russian fencer. I've recently watched Deriglasova train for about an hour to hour and a half. I was extremely impressed. It was one of the best lessons, overall training, physical sessions that I've seen. To me, that was really an answer why she won last 3 big titles. Obviously, if you look at Lee Kiefer, and she's training with Amgar Hazbak now, with whom she's trained for a very long time, I think we see that pattern also. I think Zora Thibus is an exception. She's moved to California. She's training with Sergei Golubitsky. I think it's paying off. Astrid Gyard, I don't see really doing that much. I really think at the end, the women's title will be between Deriglasova Kiefer, Thibault, with Rigo not being here, and vaulting. That's really it.
Thank you for that analysis. So as we're getting ready to start the women off, it's here local time around 10:30. We'll be kicking off at noon. We'll be back tomorrow morning, very early here, like 7 o'clock in the morning. But you guys get to have an early evening, so it works on both sides. So any closing remarks, any thoughts based upon, the conversation we've had, what we should be looking for, even from the standpoint of, this kind of production. So I'm just going to take a second before we close and say, hey, we've been looking at how do we give fencing the same kind of presentation, commentary, coverage that most major sports have. And I think this is this is a good start. We're looking for support. When we go live tomorrow, we're hoping that we get folks turning in. And, one of the things that we want from a spectator in our fan base is an indication when you come in, we're going to ask you to do some registration and, indicate your support for this kind of coverage, because we have to pay for it one way or the other. And we'd like to see if, you make a dollar donation, because all that does is say, hey, to a sponsor, it says, hey, there's somebody who wants this and they're willing to support it financially. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to, I'm going to go with my foreign commentators first. And since we let Alessandro go first the last time, Carl, you're up.
Don, thanks. Look, you know how I feel about this. We've got to try and push fencing forwards. We've got to have this good mixture of conversation where we're talking technically, but also we're talking about personality and we're talking about the athletes. And the athletes have to come front and center. So an initiative like this, Don, hats off to you. Congratulations. Brilliant idea to try and promote the sport. If we can get this and move this across into the commentary boxes, I know Jeff is doing, I know Iris is doing, and I've been doing for the last few years, to try and find a balance between the technical description of what's going on for our knowledgeable, well-informed fencing audience, but also to reach out to the rest of the world by showcasing our really special athletes who are fantastic, not only as athletes, but as individuals, I think is the way forward for fencing. And going back to fencing, watch out for Timur Safin in the men's event and Alicia Volpi in the women's event.
Hey, thank you for your handicapping. I'm going to Vegas. It's not far away. And actually, I think we got Iris Zimmerman in studio as well. We'll go to Alessandro and we'll see if we can get Iris to join us on stage in a second. Alessandro, your wrap. Go ahead.
Don, we share thoughts about fencing promotion since 2014 when we met the first time. To be honest, it was London 2012. We have the same vision. We have the same feelings about this initiative. In fact, immediately when you invited me, I was glad and I joined you as usual. All these initiatives are very important and we have to continue. We have to continue to offer different ways to watch fencing, not only matches, not only technical discussion, but in my vision, fencing is made of these superheroes, our athletes, and we have to show them to the world, because people that don't know fencing maybe could be more passionate about the individual athlete, and then they could follow fencing because they are attracted by Miles Chamberlain-Watson or Daniele Garozzo or Racing Bowden. This is the dynamic because people follow certain sports, because they follow their superheroes. And it is, I think, a clever way to talk about fencing in a different way. And I hope tomorrow will join us some athletes or coaches, because it is something that bring funny this backstage of an important fencing tournament like FI Grand Prix. So thank you, Dom. for this
Thank
initiative.
you. Thank you, Alessandro. And who's your handicapping for the men's side and the women's side today?
I think you want the forecast. Do you want the forecast?
Yeah, your forecast.
It's tough. I don't know. Probably I would say an American. I don't know who in foil man, maybe Racing Boden, because I think he feels he's in the place in which he trains, in which he lives. So probably he will have the
advantage.
yes, probably he will have the crowd from his side. And for women, I would say Derek Glazova.
All right.
My picks as well.
Your picks as well. Well, then here, I'll let Alex go next, and I'm going to try to get Iris to come in and join us for the close as well.
Alessandro took my picks. I wish I would go before him. I mean, it was Derek Glazova, and I thought in Boden was a dark horse. So I'll stay with those. I will not change. As far as the future of fencing, I actually think we learned in my regular life, in my regular job. I always tell the people I work with, we don't live in human years any longer. We live in dog years. Things change extremely quickly. Technology advances very quickly. Think 8 years ago, 12 years ago, we didn't know Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so on. I think in general, fencers are extremely astute. They make very quick decisions. They're very fast moving, and they adapt a lot better to a variety of situations. And as technology progresses, so will we. And as long as we stay with social media or whatever type of media really works, I mean, right now with an Instagram, Facebook, YouTube generation, I'm not sure we'll be in 4 years. I think we'll continue to grow. And our organic growth is very, very strong. And thankfully, we can speak the same language. We can translate what each one is saying. We understand fencing terms. And we have to bring understanding of fencing, and it's like all of you said, understanding of specialness of our stars to the public. And through social media, which is very cost effective, and then go through regular media, and I think we'll be more than okay. And I'm still staying within Boden and Derek Glazova, even though Alessandro picked him as well.
Well, that's two votes now. I'm going to get up, and Iris, come on and have a seat here and just join us in the middle. And I'm going to now pass it to Jeffrey. Let me hear your comments, and then I'll close out with Iris.
I'll go with Lee Kiefer and the women. And, Con, if I'm correct, Timur Safin is going for a three-peat at this event. Is that correct? He won Long Beach last year and the year before. So I'm going to go with that. And I just want to say to Don, congratulations for undertaking this. But I have one question for you. Are we really starting at 7 a.m. tomorrow? West Coast. Okay. And I'll pass it over to Iris.
Okay.
Just like that ring. I don't know why I didn't get an NCAA ring like that.
You have to go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, well, whatever. I'm just saying. Am I supposed to make I think this is amazing. I think anything to lift up the sport is great. I have huge respect for all, after doing this a couple of times, huge respect for people who do this job. It's a lot of work, and I think that if we do it well and professionally, I think it helps raise the sport up. And am I supposed to give a pick for this?
Yeah.
I got to go with my man, Alexander Macialis. We had a conversation yesterday. The reason I go with him is not because of records or anything. That man, I mean, he's young. He's the youngest up there, but he just loves fencing. I mean, we're having a conversation. He's doing advances, and he's doing retreats. So I think that, and I go, what do you think about winning or losing? Like, what are your thought processes on that? And he goes, you know what? I don't really think about it. I just fence. Next bout, next bout, next bout. And honestly, I think when people feel that rhythm and they just don't think about what I need to work on, all of that, they're just passionate about fencing, right? So you just see that in him. And for me, that's my pick, Alex. And of course, I'm a huge fan of Lee Kiefer. She's in medical school right now, back with her coach. But Derek Glazova for me is the final pick because she's just on fire. I think I've been watching her videos, and I've listened to Carm, who's excellent commentary, and it's really nice to hear him kind of break down her defenses, and she just has it all over the strip. She can take you anywhere on the strip, and he talked yesterday about distance. She can handle distance. She handles it at any point and can always make it her own. So I think that's really important. But I'm so appreciative whenever talk about, and Karen said, like, when we make it athlete-centric and focus is really important, being really positive and just raising up the game as a community. I think we're in that space. I think all of us are thinking outside the box. I think we're all trying to make those things happen. So, as long as all of us work together positively, I think it will help us grow.
All right. Thank you, Iris. I'm going to move back into the camera angle. This has been, first of all, I want to thank all of our guests today because I know you guys have been hanging in there. Yesterday was a little bit of a rocky start. We'll be going live with this tomorrow. Yes, it is 7 o'clock because the actual 64 starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow, West Coast time. And we'll be back live, Facebook. Tune in, and thank you, everybody. Alessandro, have a really good dinner. Carl, I know
Thank you.
And we're getting ready to get started here. Tune in to the FIE YouTube channel. Iris will be doing the analysis starting at the 32. I think Jeffrey's going to come in. I'll help her in the box a little bit. And then we go live, depending on where you are in the world. NBC will hopefully be carrying Eurosport for the Final Four in both the men's and the women. So I'm Don Anthony signing off for this broadcast, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you, guys. You guys have a good evening. And for the rest of us, we're going to get to work. Bye-bye.